Welcome to Introduction to Programming. In this video, we're going to cover what is programming, the various languages we can use to program with, and where are we going to write these programs. So let's get to it. So programming is the process of providing a computing device instructions for the purpose of completing a task. Might sound very complicated, but honestly, us as human beings, we've actually executed programs. For instance, if you've ever been given steps on how to play a game or how to get to a certain location or how to beat a level in a video game, you've received instructions to complete a task. Well, that is a program. Now, much like human beings, we communicate using various different languages. Well, there's various different languages we can use to communicate these instructions to a computing device. Some examples of programming languages that we can use are Python, C++, Java, JavaScript. Again, there's a large list of different programming languages you can use, each with a specific advantage and disadvantage. So again, it'll be wise to kind of learn which languages work best depending on the application you want to create. So where are we going to create these programs? So I want to make an analogy to writing an essay. So if you had to write an essay, you might use something like Word locally on your computer or perhaps Google Docs online. Well, the same thing happens with programming. You could write programs locally on your computer, or you could write them online. Again, there's so many things being moved online. So in this video, we're going to demonstrate a website called Replit, which does exactly that. It gives us an environment that we can actually write programs online. So for this, I'm going to switch over to my computer and let me demonstrate that to you. So if you simply type in REPL period IT, that should get you to the Replit website. Now from here, we have to log in. Now I find that the easiest way to log in is if you have a Google account, it's to simply use that. You could create a local account using their system, but again, Google ties in with so many things. Why try to remember another username and password? Just use Google. All right, so once you log in, again, if this is your first time programming, you might be overwhelmed a little bit by all the things you see. Take it in strides. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you is where will all your programs exist. So there's a folder called My Replits. This is, and I'm going to show you my font size a little bit. Screen size. So this is where you're going to see all your various programs. And again, you can see here, I have a bunch of mine from both my courses and private projects. So my suggestion is that if you're first getting started, is to create a new folder, call it whatever you want, perhaps My Projects, Programming Technologies. I'll use this one. And I might have to put a 2 at the end of it because I think I already have one created. All right, so at that point you have this folder. Now let's say you want to delete a folder. You can simply click on these 3 little dots, hit delete. And I'm going to do that strictly for the fact that I don't want to have 2 folders roughly on the same name in my replit. Type the folder path. You know what? I'll leave it alone. For the sake of this video, it could stay. So once you get into your folder, you may be presented an option here to create your first replit, but you can also create up here. I'm going to use this button here because this button is always here. So when you click on the plus button, now you're given an option as to, okay, what type of program do you want to write? Do you want to write a web page using HTML, CSS? You want to write a program using Python, Swift, Node.js, Java. Again, I've been programming for quite a few years, and this impressed me a lot about Replit. The fact that it has the ability to program with so many different languages. You know, prior to an environment like this, a programmer would actually have to install the software locally on their computer in order to start coding. Again, in some cases, not so bad. In other cases, it's a daunting task to set up your computer to work with a particular language. So at this point, I'm just going to start with, let's say, Python with Turtle. And now we have to give it a name. Honestly, the name could be whatever you want. My first program, and then hit create. Now, depending on the programming environment, you might be given slightly different options in terms of what you see in your development environment. This side is where you have files, so you could add extra files here, adding extra files, or you can add folders, depending on how you want to organize your program. All replets, regardless of what language, will always have a section in the middle that's actually your program. On the right side, here's where it might vary a little bit. There's typically a little screen, little black screen, that can be used to display information as well as to see your error messages in case you made a mistake in your program. And again, depending on the environment, you might also have an output screen. All right. So I'm not going to go into a lesson on Python because this is supposed to be more generic, but this is Replit. Let's go back to our presentation and review what we've done. So in this video, we covered what the purpose of programming is, and we kind of made an analogy to us as human beings, that it's just a set of instructions to complete a task, except that they're being given to a computing device. Much like human beings, there are many different languages we can use to communicate to a computer or computing device. Again, it's up to you to choose the right one. And then lastly, in order for us to write these programs, we need a development environment. Just like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, Excel, Google Sheets. These are programs to write essays, process data. Well, we need the same thing for programming. And we introduce Replit as an online browser that has capabilities to program many different languages through the browser. So hopefully you're excited about getting into programming and enjoy.